How far is too far to push things in a post-apocalyptic setting? Welcome back to Lost in Games Unscripted, the series where I talk about pretty much whatever comes to mind at any given time. And today, that's actually a topic that is going to be something that we're going to be talking about and extrapolating on over this course of several videos. Because the topic of morality in a post-apocalyptic setting is one that really fascinates me, and it's one that I think divides a lot of people when it comes to how to deal with things, what you would do if the world, if society just came to an end, if everything around us collapsed, what we know as a world just kind of collapsed, what would be right and wrong? Where would that moral line go? So over the next probably couple of weeks, however many videos it takes, I don't have a full plan for it, but we're going to be talking about several different things, ranging from The Last of Us and The Walking Dead and Fallout 4 and some of the bigger post-apocalyptic type of games, and looking at those settings and TV shows. We're going to be looking at the Walking Dead TV show as well, and looking at those settings for what they are, and talk about what would be right and wrong when you are in a situation where things have fallen all around you. Now, for the purposes of this particular video, we're going to be focusing a lot on Joel from The Last of Us. Because in the first 20 years or so, between the prologue for the game and when The Last of Us Part 1 actually starts, Joel for some of that time, is a raider. He has done some things. We know that he kind of semi-admits that he's done some things that aren't considered very good. He may have hurt some innocent people in order to survive, or presumably survive. So the question becomes, what would lead someone to that point, and is that really morally wrong? Where does that line fall? So put yourself in Joel's shoes for just a minute. The world has started to kind of collapse, right? We'll start with the first night where things kind of shit hits the fan and things get really, really bad. He is running out with Sarah, and he is trying to figure out, where do we go? Is there like authorities that we need to find or whatever? And then Sarah gets shot and killed, and he is in a situation where there's no rhyme or reason to the world anymore. His daughter's dead. His brother's still there, but his brother's just killed a soldier who had killed Sarah to begin with. Like, nothing makes sense anymore, right? So he's going to be emotionally wrought, for lack of a better term. And he's going to be trying to figure out what the best thing to do is. Is it even worth going on? Because a lot of people in that scenario, let's face it, to steal a term from Jenner in The Walking Dead, they would opt out at that point. They would say, this isn't worth living anymore. I'm not going to try to survive in this world. But there would also be a lot of people that would not be willing to do that, that would have the hope of, we're going to make things work. Things will get better. We've been through hard times before. Things will improve, right? In Joel's case, let's say he found a quarantine zone, or maybe he didn't find a quarantine zone. At any rate, he gets to a point where he's suffering, maybe starving to death, maybe needs medicine. Maybe he's got with a small group that is looking for ways to get by. And they decide that they're going to start taking things from other people. We have the power, we have the strength, we've got maybe we've got some military backing, maybe we have some people that have a background in firearms and that kind of thing, and we have some weapons. We are going to take what we need to survive. And the question becomes, is that wrong? If you are doing it for your own survival, if it is a matter of, we take this from them, we take food, we take medicine, whatever we need, and sure, they die, but we get to keep going on. Is that wrong? Is there a moral line there that they have crossed at any point? Now, looking at it from deontology, which, what we normally do when we look through these things is try to figure out, look at the big moral systems, and we say, okay, based on these moral systems, what would they be wrong? Well, deontology would say you're wrong. There's no black and there's no gray area. There's black and white only. Deontology is a moral system that is derived from your obligation to each other, from You were supposed to do things a certain way. And deontology would say something like, well, killing is wrong regardless. Stealing is wrong regardless. There is no way around it. That is just the rules that you go by. Now, most people don't live in a world where they live by the rules of deontology, right? Some people might say, well, no, I think killing is wrong in every circumstance. But most people, when pushed on that, for instance, would say, well, okay, yeah, there's times where if you have to kill to defend your own life, then it's okay. So most people aren't strict deontologists. Most people kind of fall more in the line of utilitarianism. Utilitarianism, the idea of the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, but it's also there are also forms of it like consequentialism, which is the end result, whatever happens, whatever the result of the thing is, tells you whether it's moral or not. So from a consequentialist standpoint, if Joel is trying to survive, if Joel's group, let's say he's got a small group, he's got his brother, he's got, let's say there's a few other people with them. And so he's got these people and he's just trying to survive, and killing a few, maybe innocent people, maybe there's women and children, maybe it's a smaller group, but you killing those people and taking their food, medicine, whatever supplies they have, helps your group continue going on. Well, the consequences of that action are that your group gets to continue going on. And by utilitarian standpoint, that could be considered moral. That could be considered the right thing to do. You could argue that taking a life to sustain a life, whether it's for defensive purposes or offensive purposes, because, hey, we need what you have. There's more of us, and we're going to survive. The overall greater good of the larger group, we need to survive. We're just going to take what you have. Because you could argue that, well, what if they just offered and asked them, hey, why don't you join us and then share what you have? But a lot of people aren't going to be like that. You got to think, in an apocalypse situation, a lot of people are going to be like, I've got my stuff and I have to hold that close to me and I have to defend. And because this is going to, maybe it's rations for my family. Maybe I've got just enough food and whatnot to support my family. And I'm going to fight for that. I'm not just going to share that with people because they've got a bigger group. So most circumstances, you're going to wind up having to kill them in the end, because they're not going to agree to share their supplies. It might be hard fought supplies. They might have stolen it from somewhere else. They might have lost somebody in the process of getting those supplies, and they're not just going to hand them over and share evenly with a group of people that says, give us your stuff. That's just not the way it's usually going to work. So from a survivalist perspective, from a consequentialist perspective, Joel's going to be morally right to take that stuff, in whatever group he's with. Now, this kind of is in the realm of situational ethics. Situational ethics says that the ethics of the morality of something changes based on the situation, based on the circumstances that you're in. So in a circumstance where all of your needs are mostly met, you can go to the grocery store and get food. You can go to the doctor and get medicine. It's pretty simple and straightforward in our world. The situation being that stealing those things would be wrong. You could say without a doubt that, well, if you could have gone and bought something, but you decided to steal it instead, it's morally wrong. But in a situation where those things don't exist, you don't have a grocery store to go to, you don't have a doctor that can just give you medicine, well, the situation, the ethics and morality changes. And it becomes every person for themselves. It becomes, we have to do what we have to do to survive, because otherwise we die. And if it's a choice between you and me, I'm going to choose me every time. Not everybody's like that. Now, there are people out there that will argue that, no, we should hold on to, that's the stuff that makes us human. The fact that we would help each other out and sacrifice for each other, that's what makes us human. And so there is we should hold fast to those morals that we have no matter the situation. Maybe partially deontology, but even a utilitarian, because in a utilitarian situation, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, but that would change. The needs of the many might be the needs of my group, which is bigger and more powerful than your group, outweigh that. So we would take from you. But if you didn't, if you kept the same situation, even on a utilitarian standpoint, you would say, well, the needs of the many would be the needs of humanity overall. And you're harming humanity overall by killing people and stealing their stuff, because now you're making people fearful of travel, and you're making people have to worry about, if I go from here to here, am I going to get robbed on the way? So you're harming humanity overall, and you're making it more difficult for other people. So it's a really interesting topic, and it's something to ponder on and think about. And as we go along, we're going to be talking, and I've got some plans for other videos talking about these shifting moral lines, different phases, because when a situation happens and a world-ending event were to happen, a society-ending event, there are different phases that happen there and different forms of acceptance. And I've got plans to talk about things like The Walking Dead. Dale, I'm going to be talking about Dale from The Walking Dead. I'm actually in the process of researching and doing some things to get ready for that. So if all of that sounds interesting to you, make sure you like this video and subscribe. I want to know your comments down below. When do you think that Joel is morally justified and acting as a raider in that 20 years or at some point in that 20 years? Do you think that there's a situation where you could say, yeah, for the survival of my group, it's morally right to take things from this other smaller group? Because that's essentially what they're doing. They're ambushing people. He mentioned that they ambushed people and they were taking from innocent, presumably women and children were being killed at some throughout this whole thing, that he was part of something like that. So is there a way that that's morally justified to you? Do you think that your own survival should come above all else? Or do you think that there's a moral line that we shouldn't cross, that we should say, no, we're not going to stoop to this level? So I'm interested in hearing your thoughts in the comments down below. If you want to help the channel out in other ways, help me continue making videos like this, I've got a channel memberships and a Patreon. A couple dollars a month, and you can help me get new games to analyze for the Philosophy and Ethics and Games series. More stuff to talk about, and help me continue to create videos like this. I'm going to be doing more friend or foe videos at some point in the future. Right now, that's kind of on a hiatus because I'm focused on some other things and trying to plan and try to find my footing really overall moving forward and what I want to do with the second half of the year. So stay tuned for all of that. Like I said, channel memberships, Patreon, all the good stuff. Like, subscribe. That's all I've got for this one. Everybody have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one.